What's going on YouTube? So the Mercedes GLE has long been the quintessential luxury SUV in the brand's lineup.
And Mercedes knows that, which is why they make changes to this important model every single year.
So, is there anything new for 2026, and is it still a great pick? Well, let's go ahead and find out. Now, like always, let's get things started here with a quick spec dump. So the GLE continues to be offered in 6 different powertrain variations. We've got the 350 version, which is a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine with EQ Boost mild hybrid. It makes 255 horsepower. It's paired to a 9-speed automatic transmission, and with all-wheel drive, our combined fuel economy rating is 22 mpg.
Now, the base price for the GLE in 2026 is $62,000. And if you're looking to buy one or any new vehicle, we'd encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes to get the best price. Now, of course, later on, we're going to be taking it out for a spin to show you the performance of this motor. We'll also be getting things like our sound level reading.
But let's go ahead and close up the hood because we need to walk through the exterior, see what they've changed there, and the inside. So as you can see, we really have that signature Mercedes design up here in the front. When this was called the ML and when it transitioned to the GLE, it's always kind of kept that signature shape that makes it instantly recognizable. Now, there is one noteworthy update for 2026, and that's the fact that the AMG line package now is standard on the GLE 450 model. So that's a very popular combination that I think most people were going for, and that's now going to be included as standard equipment. This model has the AMG line package, so you can see up in the front, gives you a little bit more of an aggressive grille with the little detailed finishes throughout. I think it looks quite nice. You also have the gloss black finish on the lower fascia since this is AMG Night. Now as we move over to our lighting, you have standard LED headlights as you'd expect for a Mercedes product. These are reflector LEDs unless you go up to the top spec Pinnacle. That will get you the multi-beam adaptive LEDs instead. And as we walk around to the back, it continues with that very classy GLE look. They never really mess with that too much year to year.
You got to have a classy Mercedes-Benz. Now, as far as design touches, we have a spoiler, we have a wiper, and let's take a look at our taillights and see if all the elements are LED. So as you can see, we do have LED accenting, LED brake light, LED reverse light, and also an LED amber turn signal indicator. Very premium lighting setup as expected. As we drop down to the lower fascia, this is all going to be a gloss black. The AMG line gets you a more aggressive diffuser area itself. And as far as your tow rating, it's a maximum of 7,700 pounds.
Now moving on to the wheels, you have choices between 19 inches and 22 inches. Really a lot of different choices. This is our AMG line 20-inch alloy. I always have quite liked this overall design. Also, the other noteworthy thing that going for the AMG line exterior, or now getting it standard, is that you get the body color wheel arches and lower moldings. Moving up here to our mirrors, we've got a gloss black finish on board. These are fully loaded on every single example as well, so you have auto dimming, power folding, in addition to blind spot monitoring.
Now at this side, the overall vehicle length is 194.4 inches, and as far as design touches, blacked out window surrounds as well as blacked out raised roof rails up top. Now I do want to point out for 2026 you have 2 new exterior colors. They're manufacturer exterior colors, so they are pricey, but it's definitely a good option to add. And as far as your safety systems are concerned, you're going to get 2 of those as standard equipment on the GLE. The other ones will be available in the driver's assistance package, which is optional on all models. But guys, there's an extremely luxurious cabin with some changes for 2026. But first, if you're new here, we're brothers and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12
and 16. We started young, and since then we've reviewed over 2,000 cars at every price point.
No matter what you're looking for, from our long-term vehicle videos to our side-by-side comparisons, we'd love for you to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family.
Let's learn a lot and have some fun with all the latest cars. All right, now let's move to the inside. Here's the key fob. Typical Mercedes key fob. Got some metal accenting on it. You have standard smart entry. Getting inside, just grab behind the handle. That will unlock the door and fold the mirrors outward. And then take a look inside the interior. Now, this model has been on sale for a number of years at this point, but I think the cabin still looks quite beautiful when you first glance inside. And before we get into individual details, of course, we'll start by talking about the seats. So this is a highly customizable interior. You're going to begin with MB Tex. That's a synthetic leather for your 350 and your 450 models, but you can option on real leather if you prefer. Also, even further above the real leather, you can option on real Napa leather. So that would be the finest grade, and those have some special colors associated with those models. This is macchiato beige, and it feels nice and realistic. Now, coming over here to our controls, we have 16 ways of power adjustment. That's standard equipment on all models. You also have memory seats located right there. We've got the heating and ventilation on today's example. Massage is offered, although we don't have it on today's tester. But let's go ahead and climb inside. When you close up the door, you get a little animation on the screen. And let's look around the rest of the materials. Over here on the door trim, we've got more of the macchiato MB Tex with stitching details. Soft touch plastic along the top. A really beautiful open pore wood will go all through this area, and you have real metal speaker grills. Up top, we have a soft touch plastic on this example. You can option this on to be covered in leather if you prefer that. Down here is where you get all the beautiful wood. I think this looks quite lovely, and the real metal vents through there and more wood through the center section. Let's fire it up with the push button start. And now it's all fired up. Let's dig into some individual details. We'll start with our gauge cluster. This is kind of the classic Mercedes presentation of dual 12.3-inch displays. Super high resolution. You've got a lot of different designs you can choose from inside of this screen as well. And you can control it easily with the touch sensor on the steering wheel. You also have a head-up display, which is standard on the Pinnacle version for 2026. Pulling back to the steering wheel, we've got a beautiful design here. Some piano black kind of flows through, and it is leather wrapped. Be aware that the AMG line interior package is different than the exterior package, so those are totally distinct things. So we've got the exterior, we don't have the interior, so you've got the classic shape. It's a power tilt and telescoping steering wheel. You have optional heating as well, and you can get heated armrest on this model. Speaking of armrest, let's pop that open and take a look at the storage. Inside, we've got donuts because, of course, here at Car Confections, we like to put the donuts in the console to check the volume and compare. This model hits 10 donuts, which is going to be a little below the dozen donuts required to get a passing grade. You have a little storage right there. And then if we slide back this big piece of wood here, that reveals our 2 cup holders, and you also have a wireless phone charging pad. The cup holders can be heated and cooled as well. There's a lot of customization you can have with this model, of course, in typical Mercedes fashion. Now, the shifter is electronic. You just pull down for drive. You have paddle shifters on the steering wheel. Press up for reverse. When you go into reverse, here's our available 360-degree camera system. As you can see, it's got a nice sharp image to it. We can also click through here and go into a 3D perspective where you can spin all around the vehicle in great detail. Just press the end of the stalk right there for park. There's also an electronic parking brake on board. You continue to have a panel of buttons right here. This can help you control the touchscreen without actually touching it. You have some drive mode stuff over here. By the way, you also have a fingerprint reader. This was newly added in 2025. And then as we move over here to the audio system, we've got a 13-speaker Burmester audio system on board. And let's go ahead and take a sample. Overall sound quality remains top-notch. All right, now taking a look at the climate controls. These are all nicely physically done, which is becoming, you know, a rarity these days. Metal buttons here, it's dual zone automatic. You can get an available 4-zone automatic system, and when you choose that, that also gives you fragrance if that's something you're looking for, but most of the models will probably come with the dual zone. Of course, above, we've got our main display. I was already mentioning it's 12.3 inches. This has MBUX, and it has wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. Overall, the system really operates the same as in other Mercedes products, including ones with the Hyperscreen. I also want to point out that augmented reality navigation has expanded availability for 2026, or I should say expanded standard, on the Exclusive and the Pinnacle trims now without any additional charge. Up top, we've got the auto-dimming mirror with HomeLink universal remotes. This model comes standard with a regular sunroof, but if you want the much larger panoramic one, like we're showing you right now, that's going to cost you about $1,000 extra. But as you can see, you've got a sunshade and the front panel opens up.
And let's talk about the GLE's rear seat. Now, first and foremost, let's talk about space, which I'm sure you're probably seeing right now is quite good in this model. We're sitting at 41 inches of legroom, 40 inches of headroom. Guys, those are pretty much class-leading figures. Those are really impressive. As you can see, it feels very open and airy in here. I certainly like that. Now, of course, we brought along the official Car Confections ruler, and the reason... Now, of course, we brought along the official Car Confections ruler, and the reason we do that is so you can get a realistic knee room figure. This seat is adjusted to Drew, who's 5'8". I am 5'9", and look at that, we have a full foot of knee space. That is absolutely fantastic. My feet can also kind of slide up underneath of the seat, and the seats themselves are going to be pretty comfortable back here. They're a little bit on the firm side, but they do not have reclining, so that's something worth noting. If you do want that functionality, Mercedes will happily sell you a power second row seat with the optional third row, which, by the way, you can get on this model. We don't have it on today's example, but you can get a power adjusting second row and a third row. If we fold down the armrest, we have cup holders inside. And then as far as features are concerned, we have these nice vents right here in the center. If you spring for a model with 4-zone climate, the controls will be right here. We just have the USB ports down there at the bottom, as well as a little bit more storage. Heated rear seats are also available. As far as the door trim is concerned, it's going to be very nicely done. Lots of wood, leather all through the center section, metal speaker grills. I want to point out a new feature for 2026 is optional power rear sunshades. So that's a nice bougie touch that you can get. And there's also a lot of door storage. You can easily fit in a pretty big bottle like this in the door pocket. Now walking up to the tailgate, we have a standard hands-free power one. All GLEs will have that. And as far as the space is concerned, very good numbers here. 33 cubic feet behind the second row of seats. If I fold those seats down, we have a maximum of about 75 cubic feet of space. Those are very much on par with the BMW X5 in terms of space figures, and it's going to be way bigger than something like a Lexus RX, so depending on what you're cross-shopping with. Speaking of cross-shopping, we'd encourage you to go to carconfections.com/vehicle rankings. The reason you do that is because we've actually looked at all the luxury 2-row midsize SUVs on the market and ranked them in individual categories that might matter more or less to you. Things like cargo capacity, as well as interior tech, luxury features, value, as well as things like powertrain are all detailed there for you. So if you want to make an informed buying decision, definitely go to carconfections.com/vehicle rankings to do that. Now back to the GLE. There are not any handles to fold the second row of seats from back here, so I will have to go up there and do it manually. It is 40-20-40 split folding though. And now that I've got those seats folded down, let's get our cargo length, width, and height figures. It's a Car Confections review after all. So from behind Drew's 5'8" driving position to the rear of the cargo area, 79 inches of length. That's very good. From behind the second row of seats, 40 inches of length. As far as the opening, let's see how wide it is. 44 inches wide. Overall height is coming in at 32 inches. That's actually a very good height figure. And let's get our cargo load-in height as well. About 30 inches is our load-in height. Now underneath of the floor, we have a very prominent spare tire, maybe a little bit of extra storage as well. And honestly, spare tires are becoming very rare nowadays, so it's good that they are including that. Well guys, here we are behind the wheel of the 2026 Mercedes GLE. In this test drive, we're going to be discussing quite a lot. As you can see on the screen right now, we'll also be getting things like our sound level reading. But first, we need to go ahead and start with a hard acceleration so you can see what the powertrain experience is like.
Alright, that was 60 miles per hour with the GLE 350. Now, like we were talking about at the spec dump, this vehicle perhaps has more distinct powertrain options than any other vehicle in the auto industry. I can't think of anything off the top of my head that has 6 totally distinct powertrains, which is absolutely insane. So, this is the standard one. This is what you would get if you want to, spend the least amount of money on your GLE. It's the 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. It has EQ boost, so it's a mild hybrid system. 255 horsepower and 295 pound-feet of torque. So those are totally usable numbers. It's decent in its overall power delivery. You're setting at a 0 to 60 of about 7 seconds. But, of course, all the other powertrain options, it's really just going to be up from there in terms of power, sometimes really significantly.
Right, so a couple things worth noting is that the BMW X5 does give you a 6-cylinder as standard equipment. The Mercedes equivalent to that would be the GLE 450. It actually has the exact same horsepower figure at 375 horsepower. And then if you're curious about the other powertrains, there's a plug-in hybrid. There are several AMG versions. You can see all of that on the screen right now, as well as things like their 0 to 60. So just depending on what you're looking to spend, as well as what performance level you're looking for, the GLE basically does have it to offer, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think, personally speaking, we've sampled several of these versions, maybe even most of these versions at this point. 450 seems to be the sweet spot for 90% of people. Now, like we were mentioning, most of those powertrains have EQ Boost, which is a mild hybrid. It can do things like power advanced auto start stop. So before you even come to a stop at a red light like we just did, the engine will go ahead and turn off to help you save some fuel. This is ridiculously smooth. They just did such a great job that it's kind of one of those other characteristics. Other automakers are just now starting to kind of catch up to this system. It really is so good at making this a nice and smooth transition. As far as the transmission, we've got a 9-speed automatic. This, of course, is shared across a lot of Mercedes products. It's a nice and smooth transmission overall, and the shifts can be more aggressive when you go into one of the sport modes.
Yeah, the vast majority of GLEs will also have standard all-wheel drive, although they do offer a rear drive version just on this 350 to kind of lower that price point down a little bit for those of you that don't need all-wheel drive. And let's discuss fuel economy real quick. There are countless fuel economies that you can get in this model. Namely, this 350 is sitting at 22 mpg with all-wheel drive, which is what most people get. The 6-cylinder is really not any penalty at all. That still comes in at 21 mpg combined for the GLE 450. So once more, if you can afford the extra money for the 450, I think that's a better powertrain experience in terms of refinement, as well as not really costing you much at the pump. Now that we're just kind of cruising down the highway here, I want to take a second to discuss ride quality for the GLE. This has always been a strong suit for this model. This is a vehicle that is very luxury oriented, and it really doesn't try and pretend, unless you get the AMG versions, that it's luxurious. And that translates to your ride quality. When you hit a bump in the road, it does a great job of soaking it up. Really, this is one of the most comfortable segments of vehicle that you can get in really, at any price point. Really, the Lexus RX is extremely comfortable. BMW X5 and this vehicle just really all do a phenomenal job, especially if you select one with the smaller wheels on the outside. I think you're going to be very pleasantly surprised with your ride quality. All right, and we are going to speed up to 55 miles per hour so we can get our sound level reading. We went ahead and toggled it to fan speed 1, so let's see how quiet this GLE is. Wow, very good. 51.4 decibels is what we are sitting at as our sound level reading, going 55. Now, we don't have to sit here and guess how it compares to some of the rivals. We can find that at carconfections.com/sound level readings. Now, as far as how that compares against all of the other luxury midsizers, that's not going to be quite the quietest option. The BMW X5 is one of the quietest vehicles we've ever tested on the channel. So is the GV80, but this is going to be pretty much your third quietest option that you can buy in this space. So it's going to be a very serene experience for longer road trips. All right, so let's discuss our slam dunk and airball as well, our favorite and least favorite element about the GLE. Drew, why don't you go ahead and kick us off with the slam dunk of this model?
The slam dunk is going to be how this vehicle is aging. This is its 6th model year, and it has had some updates, of course, along the way, but it is largely the same. And it still is just so nice of a product. Mercedes really went all out, I think, on the development of this product, and I'm not surprised because it is one of their best sellers and most important SUVs. But it's just aging really, really well, and the things that you miss versus the most modern Mercedes, I don't think a lot of people really care that much about necessarily, unless you're a big tech person.
Yeah, that's for sure. I love the luxury experience in here. Now, as far as the airball is concerned, what we're going to say, and what has continued to be the airball, I think, for many years at this point, is the price of this model. You have to pay to play, that's for sure. This is the most expensive, I believe, in this entire segment. I mean, compared to rivals, we're a very base model today, and we're sitting at like 73 grand, whereas in a lot of the rivals, you can get a very nicely equipped one for around 80. This is going to be $85,000, $90,000 if you start checking all the boxes off, and especially as you hit those powertrains, it can be very, very expensive. And I do want to mention real briefly about those of you really concerned about ride quality. You can also get a full air suspension in the GLE. You will have standard adaptive dampers regardless of what model you select, but you can also, go the next step up and get that air suspension if you want ultimate ride. Let's talk pricing. So the GLE starts at around $62,000 for 2026. As you can see, there's a huge range. There are a ton of powertrains, so they all have a lot of varying prices. We have a more basic GLE. This is what most people will end up with. 2026 GLE 350 4MATIC, 64 750 is our starting point. We also have a pretty moderate amount of equipment, so not a ton. We're sitting at $72,980 after our destination charge of $1,250. Now, for those of you concerned, I do want to point out the final assembly point for the GLE is actually in Vance, Alabama, so it is assembled here in the U.S. Now, if you're looking to buy a Mercedes GLE or any new vehicle, we'd encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes. The reason you do that is because we have a tool on our website that will connect you with local car dealers in your area to get you the best price. It's also going to give you access to invoice pricing information, which is a great tool for dealership negotiation. If you'd like to take advantage of that, as well as things like our monthly payment tool, you can find a link to that in our video description, as well as a pinned comment down below. But buying a vehicle is about more than just the original MSRP, so let's discuss resale and reliability. First up, let's talk about resale value. As an economics graduate myself, we took the time to develop what we think is a good estimate for this Mercedes GLE's potential resale value. We estimate that after 5 years and 60,000 miles, it'll be worth 41.1% of original MSRP, and after 10 years and 120,000 miles, 17.0%. Now, it's worth noting that is definitely on the lower end for the overall industry. It is lower than industry average. However, it's very much on par with other German luxury brands such as BMW and Audi.
Now, we've also done the same for reliability by developing the Combined Reliability Index. This takes into account several studies on reliability from trustworthy sources and combines them in a way that gives you a holistic picture. In this regard, Mercedes is rated below average versus all vehicle makes.
Now, if you'd like to learn more about our resale values, our reliability data, or our methodology, be sure to go to carconfections.com/resale and carconfections.com/reliability. Buying a new vehicle is a very big decision, so you want to make sure you're making a smart purchase, especially if you're cross-shopping between different vehicle brands. Now, when it comes to your warranty, you have Mercedes Signature Warranty, which is going to be a 4-year, 50,000-mile basic and powertrain warranty. They do not do complimentary maintenance. And guys, that's going to wrap up our in-depth review of the 2026 Mercedes-Benz GLE. If you enjoyed watching this video or found it helpful in your purchasing decisions, which we hope you did, we'd really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button down below. By subscribing, you're going to be a part of our Car Confections family. We have a lot of fun on this channel, and I promise you won't want to miss out. If you're already a part of our family, thank you so much for your continued support. You make this all possible, and we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.